cosmic consciousness, extraterrestrials and UFOs, sacred geometry, ancient civilizations, spiritual connection, the quantum universe. All of these topics and so much more with your host, Sev Tuck, on Alien Spirit with Sev.
Hello, welcome to Alien Spirit. I'm Sev, and thank you for joining us. Today, my guest is Mich Carpenter. She's an energy healer, a spiritual medium, and channel for the Council of Eight. And through personal and group sessions, Mish helps individuals connect with their inner wisdom. Mish is going to tell us what channeling is, how to channel, and why you would even want to. And now that there is a surge of channelers online, how can we discern the authentic ones? Mish has a free ebook. It's called Spiritual Awakening that includes guided meditations and techniques to connect with spirit, to get information about your past lives, Akashic records, and more. Today, Mish will share some of the messages conveyed to her by the Council of Eight. Twice a month, you can attend the Council of Eight portal to receive channeled messages from the Council. And Mish is hosting a spiritual tour to Egypt this August. Welcome, Mich Carpenter.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's such an honor being here. It really is.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Where were you born? Where were you raised? And what were you interested in as a youngster?
Okay, so I was born in Zimbabwe, excuse me, which used to be Rhodesia. And my parents were young when they'd had my brother and myself. He's 3.5 years older than me. I was interested in dancing. Ballet and modern were my absolute. Dancing, singing was my absolute life. So from the age of 4 to the age of 24, I was a dancer. My parents had immigrated when Robert Mugabe had taken over Zimbabwe, and we'd immigrated to South Africa. So most of my upbringing from the age of 8, 9 years old was in South Africa. And again, dancing was my everything. When I was a teenager, I was dancing 5, 6 times a week. And what I came to realize was it was my escapism. When I started working with myself and realizing that I'd had quite a lot of trauma growing up, it was my absolute just being on stage, being in the classroom. And we had a tough teacher. I mean, she used to hit us with a ruler. She was tough, you know. She was your, well, I don't know if this is a generalization, but as a ballerina, it's hard work, continuously hard work. But I loved it. And when we'd moved from Zimbabwe to South Africa, my dad was accepted onto the mine, and my dad was a Rhodesian soldier. So there was a lot of that trauma that was playing itself out. My mom had a lot of fear. One of the things I remember as a young kid was when my dad used to go to the army, she'd lock us in her bedroom. Now, it's fascinating because I speak of my oldest brother because he doesn't remember this, but I'm the kid that kind of remembered a lot. And, whether they are real memories, they feel like they're real memories to me. And I say this even when my mom was still alive. I asked her this episode. I said, Mom, do you remember that time you were throwing plates? My parents had a volatile relationship. Do you remember throwing plates at Dad? They were maroon plates. I remember the sideboard. I described it to her. I remember the dining room table. And she looked at me, she said, how do you remember that? It's impossible, Michelle. And I said, well, I do. You threw plates at him. She said, Michelle, I was about 7, 8 months pregnant with you. Oh. And she knew that because of the house that we were living in at the time. So that's why I say there was stuff that I remembered. And so I had this habit of, as a little girl, tiny, sleeping with my hand and my leg tucked over my mom. So she used to lock us in the bedroom, and it was probably a lot of fear, young husband going to war. And for years and years and years, my body had that pattern. I always had to sleep with a pillow, or when I got involved as a young adult with a guy, I'd say, you got to lie on your back. And I could smother them. They're like, what? I'm like, we're spooning. And they're like, no, Michelle, this isn't spooning, It took me a long time to get out of that. And also I used to sleep with a pillow curled around my head for years. And I think subconsciously, unconsciously, it was to block out the noise, to block out the fighting. So, yeah, in short, dancing was my go-to, and I absolutely loved it with everything inside of me. And yeah, most of my life was Johannesburg, growing up in Johannesburg, but in a small mining town.
Mm-hmm. And why did you stop the ballet?
I self-sabotaged a lot, which also I came to realize became a pattern. I was a very musically devoted, like I could move beautifully, but I was a heavy ballerina. Like,
what does that mean?
You know, when you get these beautiful, you look at these beautiful, like a classic ballerina, no boobs, straight back. And they would move effortlessly, but their leg would just go up. They like just have the swan. I could be the swan, but jumping and trying, I was always very stiff in my joints, like working to be supple was very hard for me. And what I've realized in working through my trauma over these last 15, 16, 17 years is that my thighs carried a lot of heaviness. I carried a lot of trauma in my psoas muscle. So because I was sexually abused at the age of 5, plus all the other stuff that was going on in my childhood, it was hard work for me, and I self-sabotage. So I would hurt myself, and I just got to a stage where I think there was so much frustration because it was so much hard work, and obviously comparing myself to these beautiful women that just moved effortlessly, who were so supple. And I got to a stage where I actually hurt my foot, and I needed to have an operation. And that's where I just thought, okay, I need to now stop. So yeah, a lot of self-sabotage in it, but hard work at the same time. And then a lot of realizations that it was probably something that saved me in a lot of ways.
I took ballet lessons as a little girl.
Did you?
And I love the ballet. Yes, I've been to the ballet many times. I really enjoy it very, very much.
Yeah.
There's actually a new series on TV here in America about between the Russian, it's scripted, between a Russian and American ballet troops. And it takes place in New York City.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if you would get the show over there or not. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Now let's get to the juicy stuff. How did you know? Well, let me preface it by saying this. When I first came out with all my UFO stuff, the first ufologist that interviewed me was Grant Cameron from California, Canada, a well-known ufologist. And he was telling me that a lot of people who are strong with their psychic abilities, many of them, had some kind of trauma when they were young because they taught themselves how to disassociate. And so they could just leave the situation that they were in, go into the cosmic planes or into the astral planes. And so they were constantly strengthening that muscle. So you explained that you had some trauma in your childhood. And do you think that's how you strengthened your psychic abilities? And do psychic abilities run through your family lineage as you know it?
The answer is yes, to all of the above. As a child, besides, as I mentioned, being sexually abused, my dad was a very angry drunk. There's a lot of partying, a lot of alcohol involved, a lot of fighting. I remember specifically as a kid, and I love how you explained that, because I don't, how you will meet mediums or psychics and like, oh, remember this, or spirit was coming to us. I was a kid, was always in the darkness, always. But I would leave my body at night and I'd come back and I'd be paralyzed, and I used to wet my bed a lot, but then I'd get smacked. I'd get, my mom was very, very complicated. I think had a lot of her own anger. And when I came to realize at an older age, my mom actually was psychic. She'd say, Michelle, I would see things and I'd feel things, but she stayed in her Christian, in her faith, that being a reborn Christian was what helped her cope. So, yes, I had bulimia, also from a dancing background, just not having the stereotypical body. I lost my very best friend at the age of 16 and a half. There was a lot that I didn't know, but yet was being guided to do the work that I'm doing today. So as an example, when my friend died at 16 and a half years old, she had a kidney transplant, and her parents had put her into hospice in Johannesburg. And I remember sitting on the couch and watching her parents come from a counseling session. And I remember looking at the counselor and going, how is she not devastated? She's surrounded by people dying. I remember thinking that distinctive thought. How is the counselor just, how? She's working with parents who are losing a beautiful daughter. Fast forward to at the age of 33, when I was going through a divorce, and then I ended up going on a retreat to hospice and becoming a hospice part-time caregiver. So I didn't know what you've just shared, that I was strengthening that muscle. I was so cloudy in myself. I was angry. My dad had had affairs as a young man. It was something that I pulled into my space, men wanting to be loved, putting myself out there, wanting to be loved, and they would all, I was very controlling. That's why I can laugh at myself. Not surprised, but also just even sharing the fact that I was sexually abused. How can a 19, 20, 21-year-old man understand that or compute that or even share compassion in that? But I just wanted to share because I didn't tell my parents for many years. And I held the secret. So yes, there was what I would term, but in comparison to a lot of other people, there wasn't. I had a lot of trauma, a lot of sore throats, bladder infections, kidney infections. There was a lot of angry, emotional energy that I was storing in my body because my uncle was very much a part of our family. Christmas functions, and as South Africans in my era of growing up, we had to kiss and hug. And my body would just recoil every time I had to be with him, and I just stare at him because I only realized as a teenager how wrong this was and what had happened to me. So fast forward to 24, I knocked over and killed a young girl, and I suppressed that devastating time in my life. And 2 months later, I met my ex-husband. In 1 year, I'd had a really, really, really tough year in 1998. I had gone through a really bad breakup. We built a home together. I was made redundant. This was all within 6 months. And then so this was July, went through the breakup, October, made redundant, and December knocked over and killed a young girl. And I just suppressed all of that, plus everything else that, I've mentioned. I didn't even know. We didn't know that there was something called trauma. We didn't know that in my life, my parents never said after this event, go and see a counselor. It was just never, ever, discussed. And so again, fast forward to I being 33 years of age and finding out my ex-husband had an affair was the best thing that could have ever have brought me to my awakening. Because, there's always, we are funny as human beings, I find, that we have to wait for a huge catalyst in our lives to happen. You would have thought that at the age of 24, that would have been it. But I just suppressed it and I just continued through life. I had severe periods, like huge amounts of, I was just in fight or flight, I think, for most of my life. And when my ex and I'd found out what had happened, we had a little baby girl, and my mom had decided to stay with my dad. It was something that she had chosen, and they wanted me to stay with my ex. And I'm like, no, I've got to do this for me. I will never trust him again. But it was a great wake-up call for me to start deep diving into what I was carrying. So to go into what I'm doing now, for me, it was letting go of the heaviness of what I was storing. And as I let go, and when I say crying, sobbing, allowing myself to be vulnerable, because I grew up with stop crying. And I've come to find out very recently, I think I've got 3 water charts in my astrology. Can that make sense? Thank you. Because
you're a watery person. It's got to come out of some kind of hole. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. But having said that, I had no idea how much I was storing in my body, even though my body was shouting at me. Kidney infections, bladder infections, bronchitis, tonsillitis. Like, when are you going to wait? But when you don't know, you don't know. And so, yes, as I started to let go, I think the pineal gland, the third eye, was just like kind of, because I used to get migraines too. It was like really kind of going, okay, are you ready to pop? And it just, over time, I started to realize how the Council of Eight have always been there with me. I've always picked up on spirit. I was the kid that would blurt things out to people, and they would say to my mom, how does she know that, And there was Michelle, shut up, So it's like, okay. So I'd have the embarrassment of, I'm stupid. So I just suppressed it. And I think quite a few people have had that. But I love how so much is changing for humanity and how people are coming out now.
So when was the first time you consciously realized that you were channeling the Council of Eight? And can you tell us, what is the Council of Eight?
Mm-hmm. When we immigrated to New Zealand, the first time I remember was being in meditation, and my hands started to get really, really cold, and my body would start to quiver. Now, working through layers of trauma, I feel it's important to share that when our body tremors, it's very different for me in the way I've experienced tremoring and the way I've experienced this quivering. It's like reaching a different vibration. And I was asking, who are you? Because in my therapy, in my in-person therapy, when I've see clients in person, I started doing 8. I was all of a sudden using music in my therapy work, and I thought, oh, this is different. And then in this meditation, I just felt this incredible pureness come over me, and I would hear different voices, and I say, well, who are you? And they say, the council. So in my head, I'm like, what? You beings? You're sitting around a table? Are you like, well, how do you look out there? Like, I'm curious. And they say, we're the Council of Eight. And I say, well, who are the Council of Eight? I mean, I had no idea. And slowly but surely, I would say, okay, well, help me. Give me more kind of descriptions, because I hear them. I've seen what some of them look like. But for me, the way they interpret themselves, what they would say, they are energies of Mother Teresa, Nelson Mandela. This is how they introduce themselves. So I was like, oh my God, what? This is exciting. and I would negotiate with them, and I'd say, okay, guys, so what do you want? What are you here for? We're here to teach empowerment. We're here to help humanity. We're here to help individual humans. And what I didn't realize is that with music, because I kept saying, Michelle, you got to sing. And I'm like, I don't sing. I love to sing to myself. I'm a shower singer, but Michelle, you got to sing. You got to open up your throat. You got to open up your throat, your portal. Mm-hmm. And they were getting me, honestly, to sing some big hitting songs. I was kind of like channeling my Lady Gaga, okay? But as high as I was hitting these notes, so I would hit these lows like every 2 to 3 weeks, because the frequency was so different for me. That's why I talk about the vibration. Like my body was like, and I would get cold, Sev. And they've just walked this journey of me having a lot of negotiation with them and saying, I like simple. Can we keep this work simple for humans to understand? And they say, of course. And they are angelic beings of light. So this is what might be the catchphrase of who they are. Because I say, okay, well, how do I describe you guys? Well, we're consciousness. We're all, but we're nothing. We're connected. We are the one. And, the angelic beings of light, well, how do you even share because I want visuals. Like, that's me. Like, okay, show me who you are. And they've come to me in many different ways. And they are translucent. Sometimes they've come in these beautiful blue beings that I've seen that are Palladian. And then I've seen them as Arcturian. I've seen them with these beautiful, I'm pointing to my third eye, but this beautiful robe in this beautiful gold. And there's always a shift and change. And they said it doesn't matter what we look like. What matters is the messages that they deliver. And they're bringing through these frequencies to bring change. and I want to share this with anybody who's watching this, because the funniest thing for me is how they speak truth. And I was like, whew, because sometimes I'm like, okay, guys, because I could hear myself in the moment, even though I take a step aside when I channel and I don't remember when I channel. But in the moment, I'm like, whew, okay, that was, whew, guys, that was, how is that person going to interpret that information? Because they speak metaphorically. And the reason why I go, whew, is because I'd shared the story with you the other day where a client was moaning and carrying on, and they blurted out of my mouth and they said, blah, 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 blah. And she went, whew. And then she emailed me and she said, Michelle, I thought angels are supposed to be loving and kind and compassionate. So I said, well, what was the story you were telling? And she said, well, to be honest, I was being a victim. I was just moaning and bitching about life, and they stopped me. And I said, well, then they probably did a good job. So that's the truth that they speak, because they, we get stuck in our stories. And they have definitely upgraded my throat by helping me with different frequencies. And they work with our how do I say it? Our cells. They're working with our cells, our DNA, to show us that we are more than just us sitting here right now. And they're very captivating, and they're funny. They laugh at things that might not seem funny to us. But how many times do we take life so seriously as human beings? And that's what that's who they are. I hope I'm describing them as best as I can.
Yes.
Okay.
You've made it clear to me.
Okay, great.
All right. It's interesting that you said that when you channel, you don't remember.
Mm.
So there are different ways to channel. I channel too, but I remember, like, I'm present, I'm here, and I'm there, like, at the same time. So I can remember what's happening. I know there's different ways to channel. So how do you channel? What are the different ways that you've channeled? What is channeling?
Great questions. So when I channel, I first of all take a few breaths and I close my eyes. And the way that the connection is there, I personally like to close my eyes. I'm not too sure why. Sometimes I open my eyes. It's just the way I started. But I can feel even now, it's like I'm going out into the field. I know I'm here. And I remember in the moment when they are speaking through me, but when I come back, I don't remember what's been said. If a client would say to me, Michelle, do you remember this? Then I'm like, they speak so in the present moment. And what was then is then, and what is now is now.
That's right.
And that's where I say I don't remember. But they may say something to a client where they say, please remind Michelle to share something that's happening in my experience of life, because there'll be something that would relate to the client. And sorry, just remind me of your last question. You asked three questions in that.
Yeah, what is channeling? Is it channeling your higher self? Is it channeling yourself? Is it channeling another being? Is it plugging into the quantum matrix and picking up information? What is it?
For me personally, it would be the last one that you've just mentioned, picking up on the quantum matrix. That's, I've often questioned that myself. I'm like, is this my higher self? And then I'm like, no, because the information that comes through, can I give you an example? And this is what absolutely blows my mind. 2 weeks ago, when we had our beautiful Council of Eight portal, there was a woman in the group. And the reason why I remember this is because she booked in a one-on-one session. And they had shared with her, we have your child in spirit with us. And this woman said, And they said, no, we do. We have your spirit child with us and we're holding it. And she started to sob and she said, And they went quiet and they said, okay, we're here with you. And please, may the group please share love with this wonderful woman. And she had booked in a session with me the following week and said, the Council of Eight had mentioned that they have my child in spirit. And I said, oh. And she said, yes, I had an abortion when I was 18, 19, but I was too ashamed to share that in the group, and I was shocked that they even knew that information. And so for me, that was so pure, and even in the way that they had shared that information with her. And, channeling for me is really me taking a step aside and taking my perspectives, my assumptions, my judgment, my understandings of being Michelle Carpenter, the human, and stepping aside, but obviously I'm here, and they come through in this incredible energy that is so vast. It's something that I can't explain to myself at times. And even when they are giving a teachable moment, I think to myself, like, that's a good one, guys. That's incredible. And so the way they speak in the now for me is something that I'm learning to practice in my human self. Because, I think sometimes for me, I speak so unconsciously, and I'm like, ooh, they just speak in the observation of connection. And it's pure, and it's loving and kind, and they're here to teach us that we are compassionate, and that love is the only vibration of how we get through anything in life. And oh, is your cat back?
I'm sorry. Please continue.
Yeah. So I hope that's given an answer, and I believe we can all do it. That's part of if I was to say my purpose, my mission is teaching that no matter what we've been through in life, no matter what we have gone through or experienced in this lifetime or past timelines, because that's what the council described. It's not past lives, it's past timelines, because we're huge in our vibration of our souls, is that we can still find the joy no matter what. And I was a victim of my circumstances for many years. I bitched, I moaned, I couldn't stand men. I had my mom's programming of don't let a man dominate you. Well, the subconscious doesn't hear don't. So all I did was try and control, and then I was dominated. And I can laugh about that today because I think I'm a little bit wiser. I hope. But we've all got it. We are born with it.
Yes, we can all channel.
Yes.
So how would you suggest someone start?
Meditate. Just quiet. And for those like myself who have had a very busy mind because of just being so unfocused, disassociated, watch a candle. Just light a candle and just focus on your breath. Bring yourself something so that you're connecting with that candle. And then unconscious writing when you're calm, unconscious writing, I found for a lot of people, there's something in the connection of just sitting and saying, doodling is another way. What do you guys want me to, I used to doodle a lot, and I would draw pyramids. Didn't understand why I was drawing pyramids, why I was always scribbling pyramids. But that's just another way of, and then you can ask a question. What do you need me to know? And you're going to think you're mad. I don't know if you felt this, Siv. Who is, if I may ask you, who is somebody who taught you, or did you teach yourself?
I just taught myself.
Wow.
I don't even know if even taught is the right word. It just happened. When I was 16, I started doing automatic writing, which is what now we call it channeling, but it's the same thing, automatic writing. I started that at 16.
Wow.
And then I was, I don't know if you did this, but I was on this roller coaster of I would channel. I would write it all down. I have volumes and volumes. I'm like, this is amazing. This isn't me, because it was all beautiful messages of love and unity. And then I would tell myself, you're insane. And I would throw everything away.
Wow.
And I'm like, not talking to anybody. And then time would go by. Once again, I start channeling, have volumes of paper. You're insane. Throw everything away. And I did that roller coaster for decades.
Wow.
Did you go through anything like that?
Mine was more videos, because my handwriting, like literally recording myself. Sorry, videos is really old, isn't it?
Oh, okay. No,
I've just sounded like I'm 100 videos.
No, I don't think so.
I've got a camcorder.
So you recorded yourself?
I started to record myself. My handwriting is terrible. So to try and reread what I would write, it was just not even making sense, and I get more frustrated with myself. So I started to record myself on my phone, and I then would just also delete, because what do you know, Michelle? What do you? Yet the ones that I've kept, when I look back, I'm like, wow, yeah, it's just that doubt. I've had to banish the doubt over time. And every now and again, I still have a moment of fear and doubt where I go, whew, wow, are you mad? Like, how? And yet it's so, I want to say the words quantifiable, but, I think that we have so many belief systems that can most certainly take us out of that, that beautiful knowing. But a baby, this is such a simple example that I share so often with my clients. None of us had to tell ourselves how to grow in our mother's wombs and our grandmothers and our grandmothers. We grew from this beautiful knowing. Yes, we get books and we know that at a certain stage, this is what happens, or this is when the lungs develop. But not once did I ever have to say when I was pregnant to my children, oh, we forgot the eyebrows. We need eyebrows. Oh my God, what about the lungs? It just that connection is so there. It's so present, and it's so pure. And then we come into the world and we just learn what we've got to learn, and that's what I'm loving about these times. As scary as what the world can seem, is there's been this collective conscious wake up for so many humans, and it really is navigating, doing one thing at a time, because I've seen a lot of people go schizophrenic in wanting more and more information from 2020 and lockdown, and people are just like, okay, and there's more, and I want more, and there's a lot of information, there's a lot of us channeling, and it's a who do you resonate with? For me,
yes,
yeah, it's just tap into who do you resonate with, what are you looking for? It's a sensation, it's a feeling that we feel. We might get goosebumps.
Right. And just because one channeler works for you doesn't mean it would work for me, and vice versa, because we all align with different people. So it's good there's a lot of channelers out there, because there's a lot of different people with a lot of different vibrations.
Yes.
So because there are a lot of channelers out there, some of them aren't legit. We got to say that. So can you just reiterate again how someone who's getting new into this, how to know who to trust and who to pick to follow or help guide them?
That's such a great question. I would suggest just let go of any kind of desperation in any way. And, because I think that, and I can only speak from my own experience, I was desperate when I was going through my awakening, desperate to want to know more information. And I was driving one of my mentors mad because I was listening to Wayne Dyer CDs and I wasn't understanding what Wayne Dyer was saying. And I would phone her and say, Fix, but Wayne Dyer says this, and she's like, you seeking to get out of your head. I'm like, I don't know what you mean. She's like, drop into your heart. I don't know what you mean. So you will feel it. You will feel it in the person's voice. There will be a moment of perhaps where you might get goosebumps. There will be, you might feel like intrigued, like your body will be like, ooh, wow, I like this person. And for me, that's what I look for, is the authenticity of someone. And that for me would be the connection, is when they're speaking in their human self, what is it they're saying that you're vibing with? And because I don't know, personally, if I watch somebody, and I'm not speaking about when they're channeling, but when they're talking like this and life is about being joyful and you got to be so happy. I'm like, can you tell your face that? Like, I'm literally judging in that moment and I can't help myself, Sev.
All right. Are you saying if you're interested in a channeler, check out their life? Like if their life is a shambles,
notice. No. take note, no, because that would be absolute judgment. But check out who they are and what the message is that they're sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I've just judged, and I can call myself out on that, because it's like, for me, it would be a feeling. Somebody draws me in, or somebody, we can feel it very, very quickly. Our intuition knows, our higher self knows.
Yes.
And that's why I was mentioning about the desperation, because when we seek, I was like that. I drove everybody mad for such a long time because I just wanted to understand. I just wanted to, we more courses, more this, more that. And again, going back to
more courses.
No. And again, going back to growing as a baby, nature doesn't grow overnight, not even a sunflower seed. You plant the seed and you got to nurture it. So find someone that you would look at and go, this is my person for now, because everything's for now.
Exactly, because you might not even be into that person 6 months later, and that's okay.
100%. Yes, and that is okay. I might say something in a group that offends somebody because I'm having a human experience and a human moment, and I might say something that might be derogatory in that moment because I'm not really in my calmness. I'm in my trauma, or my little girl inside, or my teenager's defensive, which I know that can happen. And when I catch myself doing that, I might say, "Oh, that wasn't ideal," but somebody might not like me in that moment, and it's happened. I've seen this so often where, even in sharing a bit of my background and my trauma, people will nitpick straight away on something specific. Mm-hmm. And may I give you an example? Mm-hmm. On one of the podcasts I was on, I don't know how many years ago, immediately when it was heartbreaking for me, because two people had said, let's take a guess. She was a black girl that I'd knocked over and killed, which it was a young black girl. And it took about 2 years of a court case of going backwards and forwards. So I had this dark cloud over my head, going backwards and forwards, waiting to be acquitted, but they didn't have enough evidence that I was on my side of the road. And somebody else had said, this was in the apartheid era. And I thought, wow, you people have got no idea that that's what you took out of my whole message, is that, number one, that a white person, I didn't deliberately take my car and try and knock over a young 14-year-old girl. Nobody ever wants to hurt anybody else, ever. But that's how people interpret things. That's what they hear in that moment. And it was devastating for me, because I thought, wow, again, if you haven't lived in a space of, I think there's so much forgiveness that is happening around apartheid, around racism, and I feel like that's what we need more of, is how can we build each other up as opposed to breaking each other down? Because it's so easy for us, a lot of times we can be fickle. Like I say, I can say one thing that's going to frustrate a person or irritate a person. They're like, that's what they're going to take from the message. Oh, she's still judgmental. Well, of course I am. I have moments of catching myself, and then I'm like, oh, Michelle, that's what I've got to work on.
Yeah. Excuse me. That's a good point. Some people think that just because you channel dead people, or you channel and you have this information coming through, that that information to be your truth. And that's not always the case. Sometimes we're just the funnel, and we're giving you information, and then we learn from that information too. So we're not perfect. We just can hear, feel, and see. And so can you, but we've been doing it for a long time. So we're just relaying what we hear, feel, and see. Some of us channelers actually try to walk our talk. We try. We take all that information and we use it to benefit us and for our spiritual expansion. But I have also seen other channelers who act like they do have all the answers and they know everything. And that's not really the case. So just don't expect the channeler themselves to be perfect, just like you were saying, because we're learning too.
Yes.
We're learning too. And sometimes the information can align with you, but maybe the human that's delivering it doesn't align with you, but the information does. That doesn't mean you should not listen to that person. All that really matters, in my opinion, is the information, not even the person. It's
Beautiful.
just the information. How does it make you feel? I don't even care where the information is coming from. I don't care if someone says this is Mary Magdalene or this is my dead grandmother. I don't care. All I care about is what's the message? Oh, how did that make me feel? Those are my criteria.
Yes. And again, it's just, we seek to understand, but our heart knows. And
Yes.
Our heart will feel. So when I love what you've just shared, because it is, our heart will feel that the information it rings true for that person in that moment. And this has been my learning with bringing through information from these beautiful nonverbal children. They are one in the consciousness. They share. They just share connection. They share compassion. They share love. That we are. That is all that we are. So I love what you shared, because it's not about me. It's about the information that comes through me, that will resonate in that moment. And because again, I don't know about yourself, but when I've done past life regression work on myself, for healing, or I've met somebody who is a channel and they say, oh, well, I was a monk in a previous lifetime. And I'm like, okay, but we're still here being, I'm a Mish and you're a Sev, and it is really just showing up. And I truly believe that your higher self will bring that person, whoever that person is, into your space at that time for you to learn whatever you've got to learn, or to receive the message in whatever you've got to receive, because that for me is so important. It's not about having a following. It's about the messages that are being delivered by the council. And what I love is that, I came from a belief system of, unless somebody's deeply traumatized, then I would recommend or suggest, let's book a few sessions in. But the Council of Eight messages are permeating on continuously, so people would come back and they say, wow, there was a wealth of information. And 3 to 6 months later, they say, or even I had a client the other day who said, it's my yearly check-in with the council. And I love that, because she said, Michelle, they gave me so much information to work with, to process. And I went, that's awesome. Because it is, everything is vibration. Everything is the frequency of where we are at. So if we're in a lower frequency, if we're in a lower vibration, we may bring somebody in that will, I always say to somebody, just look at one message, take on one thing that resonates. Because I think sometimes we want to get it all. And when we want to get it all, it's like, okay, we're hyper focused. Okay, give me more, give me more, give me more. And isn't that who we are sometimes as human beings? Mm-hmm. Like I say, with all the courses out there, I was like that. Eventually, I just thought, Michelle, just take a chill pill. Mm-hmm. Just let this information just, and that's why I love to open up a book now and just look at 2 or 3 pages and go, okay, just receive that information. Mm-hmm. Take that on, whether it is a spiritual master that I'm learning from, just take that. And we're all different. We're all unique in our own way. But it's a resonance in the information.
Last week I had Kevin Briggs on, who's a channeler for the Council of Eight, but it's a different Council of Eight.
Yeah.
So how many Council of Eights are there? And how many councils are there? How many federations are there? We hear about Galactic Federation, Federation of Light, so many different groups of entities. Mm-hmm. So can you speak a little bit about why you say you channel the Council of Eight, and Kevin says he channels the Council of Eight? And is that okay?
Of course it is. I don't know Kevin's work. For me, though, there is so much out there, and I've had people send me a message and say, oh, Michelle, I was sitting in the car and I got this message from the Council of Eight. I'm like, go, yay, that's awesome. They're not my beings. They just,
you don't own them. That's right.
So it's like I've tucked them in my arm or underneath my and go, they're mine, because they've just chosen me in where I'm at in my life. And what I'm learning is that nothing is forever. And there was a time when my ego kicked in and I was like, ooh, because somebody had asked me, well, why have they chosen you? And I thought, I don't know. Or why have they chosen Kevin? Well, maybe he knows more than what I know. And that's okay. People will resonate with his vibration of his voice. People will resonate with my vibration of my voice. And there is, I believe, and I know I'm speaking to a master yourself, Seb, but there are so many beings out there. There are so many beings. As we are humans, there has to be so many beings out there. You know, if you just look at the ancient lands that are showing us what's been developed over, I mean, how do you explain the Easter Islanders? How do you explain those structures being built when now we have cement trucks that are mixing cement? You know, it's how do you, I drove past a big truck yesterday that had a huge grader and they had a chain on it. I'm not lying. One link of the chain must have been about that thick and about that big. And I said to my friend, how phenomenal that somebody got that message to make that chain, but then develop the machinery to make that chain. And that's one link. And this is quite interesting that I'm even sharing this, because this is what I'm receiving. We're all a link in the chain. Some might be thick, some might be smaller, like a little, if you look here. So here's my, what is this called again? I can't
Rose
remember.
quartz.
Rose quartz, okay. But then here's little rose quartz that I've got here. And they're just different sizes. So again, for me, it's in the message that is received. And I don't think any pure beings of light are going, ha, 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 ha. You know, we're going to hold on to that person, or that's the only person that can receive the message. That for me, no. That for
No,
me.
they talk to anybody who's listening. So it's not just a question of them choosing us, but we chose them too.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and who knows when that happened? Before this life, during this life, who knows? In between lives, don't even know.
Exactly.
Are you one of them? Do you think that you have a ancestral lineage to the Council of Eight?
My first answer in intuition would be no. I just feel that the way I've seen them before is when I came into this world, they were around my crib, and they were so beautiful and pure with this white light and these golden, beautiful, almost like if you had to look at embroidery, fine silk embroidery that I saw on these gowns. But I wouldn't know. I sometimes I just don't have the answers, to be honest. And when I don't have the answers, I would say, when to a client, ask them the interpretation of, and yet they will share with you what needs to be heard right now in this moment. So, yeah. But that's a great question. I've never been asked that before. I'd be honored if I was. I must have done something right in a past life.
Who knows how many people are talking to the same beings you're talking to? I might be talking to them too. Anybody, really. They're available to everyone.
Well, it would be, well, look, even the word channel, it's like a radio dial, like you dialing into something. It's like, okay, oh, there I am. Oh, there we are.
Yes.
It's all there for us. It's all there for us to activate. I mean, a tree doesn't grow next to another tree, or a weed's coming out of the garden and go, oh my God, tree, the weed just grows. Everything is a cycle. Everything has a life cycle of some sorts. And they are just beautiful beings of light. I mean, how do we even tap into or access that light? That's what my hope is for anybody watching this, is we are all light. And the channel is just, sometimes we've got to just tune that little frequency in, as it, like you listening to a radio station, and sometimes it's like, and then it's like, ooh, there we go, that's the song that I like. So I think that brings me back to the answer of what you were asking earlier on. What is the song? What is the person that you, for me, you don't have to like who I am at all, because it's not about me.
That's right.
It's just about, as you said it, the messages coming through that are bringing change, that are bringing a shift for the person that is hearing the message.
Do you have a message for anyone who's listening or watching that just feels overwhelmed right now because of the global events and the uncertainty financially here in the United States of America, and the uncertainty for all kinds of sexual types? And it just feels like a lot of people, the powers that our government gave them are now being taken away, and we're in so many wars, and it just feels like a scary time. So do you have any words for people to help them?
First of all, just to acknowledge that it is a scary time for a lot of human beings. And I can't begin to imagine what that must feel like for a lot of people that have decided what their truth is in their life. And their truth is, and I'm sorry, I'm getting teary as I feel for humanity right now, because it feels like so many people are being stripped away of what they really, who they truly are. And my message would be of, when you are feeling just so overwhelmed and you're unsure, because there is a lot of fear that's playing itself out right now. And if you hear those words, fear is not who we truly are. But my way of encouraging anybody is just place your hand on your heart and just bring yourself back to your presence or your essence of grace as best as you can. And none of us know what this time, and it feels very destructive for a lot of people, but know that find your people that you can speak to, find your people that you can cry with, find your people that you can just share openly with where you can hold one another. That for me is the most important thing with whatever you're going through, to know that you're not alone. Reach out to someone and let them know how you're feeling. And throughout all this destruction that's happening, I feel like it's most certainly bringing us closer as human beings, where we are letting go of judgment, where we actually are filtering, well, I don't want to be with that person, or that person, that relationship, that friendship doesn't work for me no more. Find the people that love you and walk with you on the journey and will show up for you no matter what. So I hope that's a message of encouragement. We've been pushed for so long, we've been pressurized for so long, and a diamond doesn't become a diamond overnight. So hang tight and just find your people. Find the people that can show up for you in the moment. But a beautiful heart resonance exercise is just, you place your hand on your heart and you breathe in love and you breathe out love. The heart coherence, and that will just calm your nervous system down.
That's wonderful advice.
Thank you.
And also to reach out to others, because sometimes people tend to cocoon. But reaching out to others. So that was beautiful. Tell us about your free ebook.
Ooh, there's lots of greatness in there, and and I'm still working through some of the greatness in there. But it's just a guide. It's a guide to help you. It's one of those where you're like, oh, well, let me find out more about what is a spiritual awakening. What is ancestral lives? Again, it's just helping you to tap into knowing that there's a lot of information out there, but it just walks with you on the journey. And it truly is. It gives you some very practical, perhaps some instrumental. So think of it as being in an orchestra. And Sev is the one that is perhaps playing the violin, and I'm the one that's beating the drums. And that's what this book's about, is it's just teaching you that there is a lot of information out there, but the orchestra, when it aligns together, it's how do I say this? It's teaching you that it's practical information, and none of it is not making you unsure. Because sometimes we have like, oh, what is a past life? Or what is Akashic records? Or what is a spiritual awakening? And well, we're all spiritual human beings. And I want to say that differently, spirit all having this human experience. So it really is just a simple book that gives you guidance along the way. And I always talk about, let's hold the hand. We walk together on this journey. Yeah.
It's kind of you to offer it for free. I think everyone should take you up on that.
Thank you, Sue.
So can you please tell us about the Council of 8 portal that you have twice a month, and how people can attend and what goes on there?
So we come together, and I've created a safe space, for want of a better statement, a little container, or a container where we all feel held. And we start off with a heart-opening meditation, just as I was showing and demonstrating, just placing our hands on our hearts. And what I love is that whoever comes on the day feels the calling. Like, I just want to be here. I want to share. We laugh, we cry. Sometimes I'm showing up in my human self, and I might share something that's going on personally for me. And I will ask the group, can you please just share love with me? And that's all that's what we do in that moment, is we breathe in love and we breathe out love to the group. So it's creating a safe container space for people to show up in, no matter what's going on in their life. And then I bring through the Council of 8. And what I've come to learn when I've watched back the Council of 8 portal is that if somebody's grieving in that moment, or crying, or feeling vulnerable, the council will say, can we please share love? And they will bring a frequency of love, or a frequency of light, or a light codes through my voice. But they actually ask the group. So it's kind of like the energy goes here, and then it goes here, and then it goes here. And we have a lot of laughter together. And it's a very open sharing place where people are okay to be seen, okay to be heard, and we nourish one another. And it's every second weekend, my Saturday, your Friday in the States, Friday evening. And it really is, I feel incredibly honored to have anybody that wants to come and share in the experience and the vibration of what is happening every time, because it's different. Every time it's different. Yeah. And one question that one person asks, 90% of the time is pretty much for the collective, for the group. That's in any case. Yeah. Sometimes I'll do some mediumship work as well, where I'll ask the people before I channel, can we please just work with their body? And it really is just feeling held in this portal.
Do you vet the people before they come in?
No, not at all. Not at all. And if I may share it's not for me to judge at all. If I may share an experience that's just come to mind of what happened once, there was this beautiful human being, an Irish lady, and she was going through some of her own deep inner wounds. And twice she had come into the portal, and twice, unbeknownst to me, because I only knew afterwards when I'd come back, I was like, oh, I recognized that the lady wasn't there anymore. And she'd sent me a scathing email saying I had kicked her out of the group. I hadn't. She somehow her internet didn't work, or something had happened that she just wasn't able to be there. And she said to me, Michelle, I don't know what it is, but every time I'm in your group, I have so much frustration, so much anger. And I would just say to her, I'm really sorry you feel that way. And I set a boundary with her and I said, please, can you stop projecting your anger onto me? And I wish you all the best. And I'm sending you love, but I feel like maybe you need to go and work with your inner child. And she had grown up in a Catholic background, a lot of destruction, a lot of the good old, and I say the good old, but it's not good. Let me tell you, it was very, very, very traumatic stuff that she had been through. And a year later, she sent me a message and she asked, can I please rejoin? And I was like, of course, please come back. And she'd come back in and she said, Michelle, I did a lot of my own shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
So for whatever reason, I can't give you the exact, this is why she wasn't in the group for the whole time. Maybe the energy was too intense for her. I don't know. But of course, anybody.
Well, it kickstarted a transformation. So that
Yes.
was the whole, it just kickstarted something. So she had to like step out, process, and then come back in, which is really cool. It's wonderful.
Yes. And I didn't put my like, oh, she's dark energy or she's bringing the group down, because a lot of times people think that if they're going through a dark time, that they're bringing the group down. No, we're there to uplift. We're there to hold you. We're there to bring
even
you
in the dark times. Like if we're not going to let you in the dark times, when are we going to let you in? Only when stuff's good? Like it doesn't work that way.
Yes, Sev, that's just sometimes, no, I've never understood that, to be honest. Is that a belief system? Because I've heard that from people where they go, I can't deal with that client. That client doesn't work with my frequency, or they're just too much. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, it all depends on what is the goal of that particular therapist or counselor. Everyone's different. Some of us, everyone's different.
Yeah.
I personally have never turned away a client, no matter how challenging or difficult or unusual. I never have. There's a reason they showed up right in front of me. So let's make the most of it and see what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Now we have a few minutes left. So before you tell us how to get in touch with you, please tell us about your spiritual tour of Egypt that you're hosting in August.
Oh my gosh. Don't give me a few minutes like I need a whole nother hour. Because when I talk about Egypt, I just get even more excited and I just go, got to go out in the field. But we have this incredible, so myself and Jill Cole. Jill is an international author and hypnotherapist, and myself, and we've come across an incredible human being, Syed, who is a wisdom keeper, and he's been born around the pyramids. So he knows every single brick, he knows every layer, and he even said to us that this is it's a journey. Every step is intentional, which is what I love. And this is happening we start on the 23rd of August and we finish. It's an 11-day trip, and we start off at the Giza pyramids in Cairo. We're going into the King's Tomb, and it is an absolute calling. Now, this is what might sound like the crazy aspect of sometimes the work that we do, is that Sekhmet came to us in 2023 when we were in Egypt. Myself and Jill were sitting in the room, and Jill went, woof, and I went, what? And she goes, I just saw something. And I said, what is it? Ask. And this is the excitement, okay? So just, I'll try and say this calmly. And Jill said, oh, it's Sekhmet. And we'd been to Sekhmet's temple that day, so her energy was very present. Anyway, fast forward to 2025. Jill got a download saying that Sekhmet wanted to do some hypnosis sessions with us, and we're busy putting a book together called Sekhmet Speaks. And Sekhmet has given us this calling and this offering. And it is a body of work. We have chartered a boat. It's a bespoke tour. So it's a very unique, transformational tour. Hence, it is a calling. And we've chartered a boat where we're going to be doing workshops. We're going to be talking on the boat. And I'm so excited because just even the energy of Syed, when we've spoken to him, oh my gosh, he just holds the essence. And he was sharing with us that he knows, he's been shown that there's so many more temples, so many more tunnels. I mean, they've been discovered now, but his ancestors,
Wow.
the wisdom is been there for a long, long time. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah. What were you going to say? Well,
Uh, yeah, none of what you're referring to is that group of individuals or that gentleman, I'm not quite sure, who said that there's all these pillars and things under the pyramid, which I absolutely believe, but it hasn't been scientifically proven. That's still a kind of a question mark. Although I know there's something under there. I just don't know if it's what that man said. So there just needs to be some more scientific research to
Yes,
support what he said. But
yes,
there's
yes.
stuff under there, just like there's
Oh,
stuff under the Sphinx. In a channeling, I saw there's a huge, gigantic library under the Sphinx.
yep, that wouldn't surprise me at all. At all.
Mhm.
And that's what Egypt does. It activates us in so many different ways. You know, you talk about the Sphinx, when we were there in 2023, I was walking with a friend of mine, and the next minute I went, "Can you taste that?" And she said, "Yeah." "Oh my God, I can taste that." And may I share this? It was a past life that we just started working through. And we were standing next to each other, and it was crazy. We could actually see ourselves. She just unraveled, and she just started to cry and sob and cry and sob, and eventually we had to put on the bus. But we had been slaughtered at that's what we saw, and we saw the beings that had slaughtered us, and it was crazy. But the reason why I'm saying taste is because I'm saying, could you taste the blood? Can you see it? Like, we could see this huge amount of blood at the base of the Sphinx. And she sobbed and sobbed and sobbed, and somebody took her back to the bus, and I saw this it was very visual. But then she went into a past life regression when she came back, and this is what Egypt does, because she was taken to that timeline, and it happened. So Egypt activates in ways, but it also just humbles us in so many ways, because it is the duality of life. It depends on whether you choose to look at life as suffering, or you choose to look at life that is just gifting us what we are needing to be gifted in that moment.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm
All right,
so...
Mish. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
How can everyone get a hold of you for a session, or to join the Council of Eight portal, or to come to Egypt?
Beautiful. So the easiest way is just please go to my website, www.michcarpenter.com, and the events are on there. The Council of Eight portal is on there, and all the information is on there. And you can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, and I share a lot about my life. And in sharing, sometimes I just show up and I'm like, well, this is what's happening in my life today. My hope is to help people that we're not alone in when I'm sharing, that we all are here having a human experience.
Together. Yes.
Together. I love that.
Yeah. And try channeling. Just sit down, and that's what I would suggest everyone who's watching. Try channeling. Just sit down and calm down a little bit. You don't have to make your mind blank, and put the pen to the paper and just see what comes out. It takes practice, though. Yeah. And do it. Why not? It's free therapy. Free therapy.
And trust yourself. Just trust yourself and trust them, whoever you're tapping into. Yeah.
As long as it feels good. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Mish. This is wonderful. I'm so grateful. Thank you, everyone who's watching and listening.
Thank you, everybody.